I'm just going to do a brief video before Election Day. So this will just fill you in on the motivation of the word joy. Kamala Harris is showing that joy can be a strategy. If hope and fear can be successful political strategies, and they have been in recent presidential election cycles, then why not joy? Kamala Harris's campaign for president has been largely defined by joy, which some people seem to think is a bad thing. Last month, New York Times opinion columnist Patrick Healy wrote that joy is not a strategy. Being our joyful mamala is not going to win the election, he argued, and warned that Harris can't coast on joy. But it's not just Harris's happy warrior approach, and that's not what it's about. That's a problem. Talking to Kara Swisher on her podcast last month, Democrat David Axelrod, former senior advisor to Obama, candidate of Hope and Change in 2008, cautioned his party against irrational exuberance as Harris's candidacy has continued to draw cheering, excited crowds by the thousands. If hope and fear can be successful political strategies, and they have been in recent presidential election cycles, then why not joy? Well, I'll tell you why not. And because I'm a researcher, God put it in my heart to look up if there was any connection between socialism and the word joy. And lo and behold, here is the connection. And whenever you see and hear anyone talking about transforming this country down a different path, a new path, or transforming the White House with the word trans being the thing there, you don't want to go that direction, because we are under the Constitution of the United States of America that gives us our rights and freedoms. And they want to bring in socialism, communism, Marxism, all of these isms. Joy, and that strategy is socialism. So here's the thing that I found. What does joy is an act of resistance mean? Originally the title of a poem by Black poet Toy Derricate, joy is an act of resistance, has been embraced by activists as a sustaining positive force for change, a defiant announcement that you exist, you're powerful, and you can't be broken. So this comes from a Black poet, and the phrase is, joy is an act of resistance. So then I saw that they were selling all of these totes and items with that phrase, joy is an act of resistance, on it. So before you vote the wrong way and vote for a socialist change for this country, you might want to know that this is where joy comes from. And the Black author Langston Hughes, he wrote Socialist Joy, which is in the writing of Langston Hughes. And it says, Socialist Joy in the writing of Langston Hughes, Columbia University of Missouri Press, 2006. This book, the latest addition to the substantial body of Hughes scholarship, is different from previous critical studies in socialist joy. Scott crafts the paradigm for a new dialectical approach to the work of Hughes, that Hughes's work was motivated by the dialectic between activism and art, and that his expertise in a myriad of genres made him into a literary renaissance man. Readers, teachers, students, and scholars of Hughes, therefore, need to approach his work in that vein. Hughes cannot be reduced to the poet or the columnist or the activist. Instead, he must be recognized as all of these things, along with translator, essayist, novelist, and traveler, to name but a few of his attributes. Hughes was a master dialectician, and as Scott's thorough Discussion shows only scholars and critics who think dialectically will recognize the same quality in his work. This book is divided into 4 chapters: the backward glance, socialism, nationalism, and nation conscious, aesthetics of black equality, and the college aesthetic, the writer as teacher. Each chapter corresponds to an area of Hughes's intellectual work, his connection to Afro-Caribbean arts, including his translations of the Cuban poet Nicolas Guillen, the relationship between the Soviet Union and the Harlem Renaissance, Hughes's extensive work as an anthropologist, and his writings for youth. Scott shows that the thread running through all of Hughes's work is the socialist joy produced by a triangular relationship among Hughes's and non-American traditions, such as the Bolshevik Revolution, Latin American and Caribbean music and poetry, and communist ideology. In other words, Scott shows that Hughes's ingenious method of moving between the arts and activism, something long overlooked by his biographers and critics, is the basis for his creative achievement. Scott begins his study with an introduction that takes into consideration the white blind spot in American studies that has contributed to the balkanization of Hughes's work. Scott points out that the dominant assumption in the United States, despite the arguments put forth by eminent literary artists such as Toni Morrison, Amiri Baraka, and Hughes, is his aesthetic theory and his intellectual practice. As a whole, Scott approaches Hughes's work from 3 angles. First, he criticizes recent forms of cultural theory, such as post-structuralism, for positioning timeless and unsurpassable contradictions between historical determinism, social being, and art and literature ideology. The expressions of socialist joy in Hughes's work are particularly discernible when his career is not periodized in Cold War terms, contrasting the communist with the post-communist years, separated by Hughes's encounter with the House Un-American Affairs Committee, the HUAC. Scott shows that far too much emphasis has been placed on Hughes's later work, reflecting the distorting effect of anti-communist ideology. Teacher scholars and biographers, including many who profess leftist leanings, tend to focus on the second half of Hughes's career. Socialist joy in the writing of Langston Hughes denotes more than a new beginning for American studies. And so you might want to know, before you vote, that Kamala is putting forth joy that's socialistic. And that is why she used that as a strategy. Vote wisely. Vote for the Constitution that we've been under for 250 years. We're not going down a new path. We're not transforming the White House. We're not transforming our government. We have a government under the Constitution, and there's only one candidate that you have a choice to choose from. So it's important to know these things, that there's those who want to transform America into something other than what it is, against the Constitution. And hopefully there's going to be a landslide. Vote with your conscience, vote with your heart, vote for the Constitution. Not a new path. Just thought you might want to know what joy really meant in the strategy of Kamala. Shalom for now. I usually don't do any kind of political type videos, but this was too important to pass up. That joy wasn't talking about a happy, smiling face and cackling. It has to do with socialism and changing the country into something new that it never was. And we don't want to go down that new path. We've already got our path set by the Founding Fathers. Shalom for now. Hope this enlightens you.